This chapter is on homosexuality. In the classroom, I ask my students these questions, and they each write them down, and then they talk at their tables about them. So 3 words they learned while they were growing up about homosexuality, 3 messages they got while growing up, 3 ways that life is different for somebody who's homosexual or bisexual, 3 concerns they would have if somebody told them that they were gay or lesbian, and then 3 ways that a homosexual person could get support. Then after they talk at their tables, I ask them what they learned. And for the most part, they usually think alike, but sometimes I have to ask them, if somebody were at your table and they were gay and you didn't know it, how would they be feeling right now? If I don't talk about a slide, you'll know that you can just read it on your own. I don't need to read to you. I will just provide additional information. Kinsey came up with the 7-point continuum, and I'm going to go to the next slide. It's not that good of a slide, but it helps you see visually that he had these 7 points from 0 to 6 that were neat individual slots that we each fit into. So we're either exclusively other sex behaviored or exclusively same-sex behaviored, with lots of intervals in between. And when he came up with this, it seemed to resolve a lot of issues that had been troubling researchers for many years, and it opened a whole new way of understanding our human sexual behavior. So, you will be given a chance to think about this and see if you agree with Kinsey's theory or not. There's lots of data, and as you can see, homosexuality is nothing new. This all came from Kinsey's data, and many of it was from a study done in 1953. So do you think we have more homosexuality today, or are we just more open about it and people are more likely to come out of the closet and share that they are gay, mainly because they don't have as many risks as being discriminated against today as they used to? Then we had data in 1973. Some of the statistics can be misleading because it could represent a single episode or even a brief period of adolescent experimentation, or whether the person was truly a homosexual. There was another study in 1993, 94. So, as you just saw the previous slide, which of the following is true? Did Kinsey's research show that more people were gay than does current research, or is more current research showing that more people are gay than Kinsey's research did? I hope you answered A. With Kinsey's research, it showed that a lot of people were gay. The NHSLS is a study that you're going to read about a lot in your book, because many studies on this current information that we'll have at the end of this semester is based on this study. And basically, when it comes to homosexuality, they sought data in 3 areas. Desire. Did that person desire to be with somebody of the same sex? Did they have behaviors with that same-sex person? Or did they identify themselves as a homosexual? We've learned that homosexuality really is more about attraction than behavior. Basically, it's an expression of affection. So, as you go through this, you can answer your own questions as you read the information. We have situational homosexuality. It could be single-sex schools, prisons. And once these people get out of these situations where they're just with one gender, usually if they're not a homosexual, they'll go back to heterosexual. And then you're going to learn about the different models. The first one I'll spend just a little bit of time on. I'm not going to have time to spend on all of them, so you'll have to do a lot of this research on your own, and then you'll have an opportunity and an assignment to expand on this information. But when we look at genetics, they do a lot of studies with identical twins because they have the same genetic makeup. And in the Kalman study, of those twins who were homosexuals, 100% of those who were identical were also homosexual. And those who were no more alike than brothers and sisters, only 12%. And we need to repeat these studies, so Whitman and Diamond did, and they still found a strong influence, not as strong, but still 75% of those who were identical twins were also homosexuals. There's hormonal influences, brain anatomy, there's psychodynamic models. Freud had his input. You'll read about that. Family background, meaning an overprotective mother or detached father. Normal variant, learned behavior, and the situations they've experienced. Was it reinforced? The multifactorial, which could be lots of different factors, could be something that would cause homosexuality. And so you'll have an opportunity to share what you think about each of these models. Bell Weinberg and Hammersmith is one of the landmark studies that spent a lot of time studying homosexuality, and basically they wanted to know what caused it. Homophobia is just an irrational fear of homosexuality. It could be somebody who's not homosexual, and it could be somebody who's homosexual and they have a fear of their own homosexuality. It could be using derogatory names, taunting others, telling queer jokes, barring gays from housing, employment. We don't see these things like we used to, thank heavens. We do know that homosexuals are at greater risk of suicide and greater risk of being threatened with physical violence. If I had a group of homosexuals, do you think you could tell which ones were and which ones were not? Many people say, oh yes, I can tell, but I bet I could bring in a group and you couldn't pick them all out. So it's unfortunate that we do have those stereotypes. Here's information on some studies of gay males and studies on gay lesbians. And then there's myths and the research that they found concerning different studies, differences between males and females. Another quiz question for you as you're learning this information. In 1973, they took homosexuality off the list of mental illness. They said it is not a mental illness. They find that those people are more highly educated and just as well adjusted as married people, reporting high levels of love, attachment, closeness, caring, and intimacy. And this would be if they have accepted their own homosexuality and are in an environment of being accepted. It is interesting, their relationships are affectionate, but only 57% do not have relationships that last longer than 1 year. I think we need to compare this to heterosexual relationships. May not be much different. They are intimate, they have closeness, that's important to them, they have prolonged pleasure. And then the Bell and Weinberg study showed different categories. Close couples were those that were committed, those were the best adjusted. Open couples living together but having other partners, be the swinging singles. Functionals who were sexually active but not committed in a relationship. Dysfunctionals who are sexually active but very dissatisfied that they're a homosexual. And then those asexuals. They are so unhappy that they are not sexually active. And coming out is a two-pronged process. They first have to accept to themselves that they're homosexual, and then they come out to others. Many people will be married in a heterosexual relationship before coming out, and I think it just takes them a while to figure out they're homosexual. Plus, what does society expect? They expect us to marry a heterosexual. And so many do just because that's what's expected, and then they realize they're unhappy in that relationship because they are homosexual. So then they will dissolve that marriage. Many of them do still remain close friends. Many of them have children while in that heterosexual relationship. And of course, we had the gay rights movement. You'll read about Stonewall Bar. A transsexual is not a homosexual. That person feels like they're trapped inside the wrong body. We've already studied this. A transvestite is not a homosexual. They just are a cross-dresser. So please do not get those terms mixed up with homosexuality. So this concludes the voiceover. Continue to learn about this through the PowerPoint and readings in your textbook, along with what we're going to be doing in class this week. Thank you.